The GPU 104 Pascal chip has given rise to two different versions of cards, the GTX 1080, of which I've already reviewed the ASUS Strix version, and the GTX 1070, which is the focus of today's video. MSI South Africa has sent over their Gaming X version of the 1070 for me to do my review on. So we're going to see how well this card actually does. The Gaming X sports the same black and red design scheme that is familiar with all of MSI's gaming series cards. The distinctive features in this iteration are the LEDs that now illuminate certain red accents on the shroud, the RGB MSI logo on the side of the shroud, as well as the dragon design on the backplate, which is now on the opposite side of its Maxwell predecessors. Just a fun fact. The RGB side light can be controlled through MSI's gaming app software, which allows you to sync the LED with the rest of your MSI system. Fortunately for me, I'm running a Z170A Gaming Pro Carbon from MSI, so I was able to synchronize my lighting easily. However, I do have to question the idea that an RGB LED needed to be put on a card that already has such a bold design statement. There's not a whole lot of extra colors you can throw into the mix with a red and black design scheme, especially since the shroud illuminates red no matter what. It kind of feels like MSI included it because everybody has RGB these days. I think it would have made more sense to have it as a pure white LED or just a white branded MSI logo sticker. Let me know down in the comments what you guys think about this RGB LED inclusion. Let me also address here the other part of the Gaming X card that is actually flawed, although this is more objective than my comment on the LED. The GPU fortifier bracket right here that's included toward the front of the card is placed in such a way that when it's installed in my chassis, I'm unable to properly mount the card because the bottom screw hole is inaccessible since my screwdriver can't get past the fortifier bracket. I still can get to the top screw, so it's somewhat stable in my chassis, but not completely so. It's not a deal breaker, but it's also not optimal. Let's move on to the things that MSI has done really well with, both historically as well as with the Gaming X 1070. The Gaming X features MSI's twin Frozr 6 setup with their dual double ball bearing Torx 2.0 fans. This cooling setup stays off below 60 degrees Celsius, but even under the normal fan profile at max load, these fans hit a shouted whisper of 45 decibels, barely 2 decibels above when the fans were not spinning at all. And the card never reached above 66 degrees Celsius in all of my testing. The Gaming X comes with a 10-phase PWM design, a 6-pin and 8-pin PCIe power connectors, and barely used any power in my system. An average gaming session with my i7-6700K drew between 230 and 235 watts, and my total system never took over 274 watts. Addressing the I/O, the Gaming X 1070 comes with the standard triple DisplayPort 1.4 ports, single HDMI 2.0, and a DVI-D for outputs. The Gaming X with its GTX 1070 standard with 1920 CUDA cores comes with 3 different modes of operation with varying base and boost clocks to match. And while the boost clock on OC is supposed to be 1797 MHz, the actual GPU boost speed that I saw on my card during testing was between 1924 and 1949 MHz, with the card never dropping below the 1924 mark during any gaming session. The 8GB of GDDR5 memory with its 256-bit memory bus comes clocked in at 8108 MHz, which is nearly 1 GHz higher than what previous generation GDDR5 cards came shipped with. Heading over to the performance results, the MSI Gaming X 1070 posts some powerful numbers at 1080p, solid 60 plus FPS gaming at 1440p, and then sufficient 4K results with all games besides Metro Last Light posting above 30 FPS averages at max settings to provide great high resolution gaming on a budget. And speaking of budget, the Gaming X with its South African price of right around 10,000 Rand and its US price of $460, it provides a great value per frame rate at the higher resolutions, even better at 4K than the Strix GTX 1080 that I reviewed a couple weeks ago. Wrapping things up, the MSI Gaming X is a solid base level card for high detailed performance at 4K, an absolute beast at 1440p, but likely overkill for the price at 1080p. You're probably better off hitting up a 970 in that instance for a lower cost and just as good performance on a typical 1080p monitor setup. This of course isn't true if you're rocking a high refresh rate monitor. The 1070 would make a lot of sense for 100 to 144 Hz panels. Overall, the MSI Gaming X does what it's supposed to do and does it well. MSI appears to have the gaming series of cards well defined in their identity and haven't really adjusted much from generation to generation in overall aesthetics. The RGB side light is a little odd, but overall, if you like the aggressive red and black design scheme, want a cool and quiet card that provides high-end performance, then look no further than the Gaming X 1070. Of course, if you prefer a more subdued shroud layout, MSI also has you covered with their Seahawk, Arrow, and Armor series cards, although actual performance may vary on those. I again want to thank MSI South Africa for signing the GTX 1070 over for review. Like this video if you found it helpful. Dislike it if you disagree with me on my conclusions with the Gaming X. You can subscribe to stay up to date on all of my tech related content, and I will see you guys in the next video. Cheers.